My name is Miles Nitz, and I want to welcome you to OPTaFIT, Optimal Physique Tactical Fitness Integrated Training. I'm glad you found this video. I hope you realize that you have just stumbled onto something that could change your life in untold ways. I can't wait to show you how and teach you what it's all about, but in order to get there, I'm guessing you will want to know what this is all about here first. And that's the purpose of this video. So let's go back to the very beginning. I was always a solid kid. Most probably would not have labeled me as fat, but certainly I wasn't skinny. Growing up out in Southern California before the age of the internet, I was out every day doing something, mostly playing baseball. I never remember having any concerns about how much I ate. I ate whatever I wanted, and as much of whatever I wanted. All of my activity allowed me to burn it off, I suppose. I played sports, particularly baseball, but in high school I also played football and basketball as well. I was truly a jock, practicing something always. I was either on the field or on the court or in the weight room. And hence, I was one of those guys who could load my cafeteria tray full, down it all, and still never seem to get fat. I'm guessing that my BMI was on the high side of normal back then, but I never paid much attention. It wasn't until I finally quit playing sports my sophomore year in college due to a significant knee injury that I slowed down physically and my eating started to catch up with me. Now, as I look back, I'm certain I was a binge eater. And in college, that turned into binge drinking as well. I could eat pizza and drink beer with the best of them. I could really put away a lot of both. As with most people, I suppose. The weight did not come on overnight. By the time I left college, I was still probably only about 20 pounds above my ideal BMI. But taking on a real job changed all of that pretty quickly. I tried the only thing I knew to control the weight, exercise. Joined a gym, and I was pretty religious about going, but there was no way that my calorie burning could keep up with my calorie consumption. So I kept right on slowly gaining weight. 6 years post-college, I was married and starting a family. I think we all know where that can go, right? I still kept trying to outpace my caloric intake with exercise, but I was losing that battle miserably, and one that I finally gave up on. 10 years of marriage and a divorce didn't help much either. Now, through all of this, mind you, I was trying. I probably tried every new fad diet that came down the pipe. Weight Watchers, Atkins, no fat, no carb, even Jenny Craig at one point. But nothing seemed to help. As much as I wanted to or willed to eat better, that next piece of pizza or next beer would always seem to find its way past my best of intentions and right into my mouth. It was as if I had two people in my head. One would say to me, "You need to watch what you eat." And then, when presented with food, the other would say, "Really, dude? Just go ahead and eat it already. Nobody cares. There are way fatter people than you. You're married. You're off the grid, off the market. You're supposed to get fat and supposed to be happy. You can worry about this later, right?" Yeah, you get the picture. So by the time my first marriage ended, I was about 80 pounds heavier than I am right now. Somewhere in the 270 range, which would have put me in the obese range with a BMI of probably 35 or more. Most people would say that I carried the weight well. Nobody ever guessed me at 270. I'm 6'1.5". I have a fairly athletic build, and thus people, I guess, looked at me like I was more in the 250 or 260 range. Another reason, by the way, for me to make more excuses to just not worry about it. In the wake of my divorce, I sought counseling to deal with the stress and depression of all of it, which is ironic in and of itself because marriage counseling had failed 3 times, and I was pretty much down on the whole idea of counseling. I was skeptical, to say the least, but I couldn't have been more pleasantly surprised. The counselor I had was a phenom, plain and simple. She was so far ahead of her time. I'm still not sure how she knew what she knew, but she was a wizard and a great teacher, and things started to change. It was the stress and depression that I was really after relief from. But the cloud slowly and surely began lifting. And as it did, I realized that the techniques she was teaching me for changing the way that I thought about things might just work for other things too. It was purely serendipitous that one day I realized that I didn't have an eating problem or a drinking problem. I had a thinking problem. And as soon as I began applying the principles and techniques I was learning to my thoughts about food, things began to change there too. Before I knew it, I had dropped 80 pounds and actually had to apply the brakes on my weight loss. Yeah, I had people asking me if I was sick, if I had cancer. So I did apply the brakes and actually put on a few pounds, intentionally, believe it or not. I realized, partly from my own decade of struggles and partly from listening to those around me, that I had done something special. Something that most people only dream of doing. I also realized that even those who do manage to lose weight, most of them put it right back on and then some. And I was bound and determined to not be one of those. And 20 years later, I'm proud to say that I'm not one of those. I've never put it back on. I was not prepared in any way for what would happen next. People literally came out of the woodwork and were not at all shy about asking me, okay, so what's the secret? How did you do it? Now, in my naive mindset back then, I thought it would be easy to just tell them exactly what I had done. That ought to do it, right? So I tried, in vain, to just pass along the steps that I had taken to make it happen for me. This happened dozens of times. Yet people weren't getting what I was trying to tell them. Not one person that I tried to help was able to actually do it. This perplexed me and also intrigued me. And I learned 5 important truths through that whole experience. 1, making such a change in one's life is a relatively rare feat. 2, there are many Americans, 68% as a matter of fact, who would dearly love to and would pay big money to learn how to do the same thing I did. 3, I knew how, but I didn't know how to help others learn how. 4, it felt darn good to be engaged in the process of helping others to learn to do something that they had tried and failed at so many times. And 5, I knew, finally, that if I could do it, they could do it too. I just had to figure out how to replicate what had happened to me in my brain so I could teach it to others. These important truths and the ensuing desire they created in me kept building in my head until finally they led me to pursue a master's in counseling. And that was all she wrote. I couldn't get enough of learning about the methods, the theories, the strategies, the tactics that all went into helping people to change. I was fascinated by the brain, the science, the chemistry. I was completely hooked. And it has been my passion ever since to help people optimize their lives. Now, I never intended to be a weight loss guru or an addictions specialist. Those kinds of things just sort of happened along the way. It goes like this. When you have one client who happens to mention that they would just like to lose a few pounds, and you show them something that really works for them, and they really make it happen, it doesn't take long for the word to get around. Pretty soon, people are lining up. And the next thing you know, you're putting together a program like this one, OPTaFIT. Don't get me wrong, though. Just going through a master's program and becoming a licensed therapist was not the whole answer. Even armed with all of the new knowledge that I had, I didn't experience immediate success. Knowledge is not the same thing as mastering the skill. I could teach the knowledge, but the mastering of such still left much to be desired. Even the best techniques I had learned in grad school were still not stellar, especially in terms of application and outcomes. And here is where my real drive kicked in. The drive to build a better mousetrap. I have always been, for as long as I can remember, the kid who thought, show me how to do something, and I'll learn how to do it, and I'll figure out how to do it better than you. I probably got that drive from living in the shadow of my older brother, who was golden, literally, at everything he touched. My passion as a little kid was to do something, anything, better than my brother could do it. And when I found those some things, like baseball, I just crushed them. Who knows? Maybe Freud was right about a few things. I knew right out of the gate that what I could show most people about how to really master the art of obtaining an optimal physique was better than anything that I had ever heard. But that wasn't good enough for me. I had to be the best of the best. I know that in my own life, losing the 80 pounds and keeping it off probably should rank a little bit below mastering the anxiety and building the confidence that I now have, but it doesn't by much. When I look in the mirror every day, I still seem to feel just as good about all of it as I did 20 years ago when I first mastered it. The feeling just never gets old. Of course, if you ask me whether I would rather have my optimal physique or my optimal outlook on life, if I had to choose, I suppose the correct answer would be the outlook, right? But it really is a hypothetical question and a moot point, because if you learn the skills to build one, you will be most likely building the other right alongside, just like I have. And if I am the one teaching, I will most certainly make sure that you walk away with both, and then some. In 20 years of doing this, I have never tired of hearing the question, I've tried everything under the sun to lose weight and get in shape, and I failed every single time. I'm told that you can help me. Do you think you can? That question excites me like none other. And I really cannot say that for everything else that I've had the privilege of helping people to do. And when people leave my office after the first meeting, and they say things like, I've never heard anything like this before. Why isn't anyone else talking about these things? That excites me even more. So, for the better part of 20 years now, I have made it my business to learn everything there is to possibly know about the subject of change. From the tiniest micro elements of change, like synapses measuring 20 to 40 nanometers wide, about a millionth of an inch, to the most efficient macro strategies for building new neural circuits, like directed neuroplasticity, I've studied them all. From every angle and from every discipline. I have been cherry-picking along the way, gleaning the best strategies and the best tactics from the most hallowed of disciplines, from professional sports to Navy SEALs and to everything in between, in search of the most integrated set of techniques ever assembled to make change happen. I have more books in my library on neurobiology than most people have socks in their underwear drawer. And I've read them all, cover to cover, sometimes 2 and 3 times, extracting the pearls of knowledge to understand, develop, and teach the art of making a desired outcome really happen. It is really the art of optimizing the experience of life. And I'm nowhere near done. I'm constantly tweaking, experimenting, documenting, and then tweaking again. I'm a therapist by trade, a scientist by heart, an inventor by nature, and a teacher deep down in my soul. Altruism really makes my motor run. Showing others how to maximize potential and optimize existence gets me up in the morning. And dreaming about better ways to do it keeps me up at night. I eat, sleep, and breathe change. me first, and then showing others the way. So welcome aboard. I'm looking forward to showing you the way to optimize your life.